Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing another reading wrap up for the months February and March. Also, I just want to say thank you to all of my new subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing. I was not expecting that little influx, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Yeah, thank you. Keep liking the videos, keep sharing if you want to. I would really appreciate it. I like to think I had a pretty good reading months. I only DNF'd one book and I kind of knew I was going to DNF it. I just read it because I needed something mind-numbing. And we'll get into that. So the first book I read in February is actually the book that I just talked about, the one that I DNF'd. And it's called The Savage Fae's Mate by Lola Glass. This book was a fever dream in the worst way possible. Basically, I don't even know what the main character's name was. What was her name? Oh my god. Anyway, the main girl, I'm gonna call her Sarah. I don't know if her name was Sarah, I can't really remember. But that's a basic white girl name, so that's why I'm choosing Sarah. Sorry to all the Sarahs out there. Basically, she throws a penny in a fountain and then she gets kidnapped by Fae and she has to marry one of them. That's all I can tell you about this book. I DNF'd it about 40%. I got through more than what I thought I would. But anyway, this book was just pure smart. Needed more world building. Definitely needed more world building. Also, I don't mind reading these sorts of books. I just want the writing to be a bit better. I thought the writing was very juvenile and needed a lot more work. Yeah, this whole book, like, I don't even know. And also, I specifically remember, like, I wrote a note and it was like, the main character gives like I'm not like other girl vibes, and like she just was not liking any of the other female characters, and I do not stand by that. No, we are all like each other. Sorry. The next book I read in February was much more promising, and it was Daisy Haites by Jessa Hasting. I think that's how you pronounce it, Daisy Haites. That's how I'm pronouncing it. So this is the second book in the Magnolia Parks series. If you don't know anything about that, I would recommend watching my January wrap up because that's when I discussed it. Basically, it's like Gossip Girl set in London, but they're richer and they're better. But I will say Daisy Haites' book is different from Magnolia Parks because they are rich for a different reason, and that reason is that they are gangsters. Well, Daisy's brother is a gangster. He's a gang lord. Gangster? The ultimate gangster? Crime. He's a crime lord. Is that the right? I don't know if that's the right terminology, because it's not mafia. Yeah, gang lord. We were actually introduced to Daisy in Magnolia Parks as well, but she only played like a really small role. I also found the timelines of these books, this series, very confusing because they're actually overlapping each other. So the storyline of Magnolia Parks is like ongoing with Daisy Haites, which I also found really confusing because for some reason I thought it would be set after like a normal series, but yeah, so it's not, the events are like overlapping each other, which kind of makes some parts of this book kind of sad because I don't want to spoil Magnolia Parks because some characters have feelings for other characters, but not necessarily the point of views that we're getting. They don't know what's happening in the events of Magnolia Parks, and that's what I found like quite frustrating, was the whole timeline thing. But other than that, I did really enjoy this book. As you can tell, I annotated it. I even like color coordinated it, which I thought was really promising. Look at that. I'm a little annotating girly. So my overall thoughts on this is that I think I liked hearing from Daisy way more than Magnolia. I just found she had a more interesting family life, whereas Magnolia was really, how do I say it? Like, she was really more, her sort of drama stemmed from her friends, not necessarily like her family, whereas, yeah, and she also Magnolia wasn't as close to her family as Daisy is to hers, her brother. So I did like Daisy for that reason, just because her perspective was just a bit more fun and interesting, and also it was just unexpected that we're hearing from like a gang lord, but it's like modern times. It's weird. It's a weird thing in my head. Also, Christian was such a better love interest than BJ. Oh my god, I hated BJ in Magnolia Park. Looking back on it, like, I really hate BJ. So I was kind of like, I really hope this isn't a series where I just hate all the male characters. I definitely liked Christian way more. He made his mistakes, definitely made his mistakes, but he was just way more like smarter and was more emotionally intelligent than what BJ was. But one thing I also think about this series is that pretty much all of the characters are really, really annoying, and they all make bad decisions. And like, in a way, like, that's why I like this series, is because it's literally like reading a reality show, but also they just drive me crazy, these characters. Also, I definitely do like Daisy more than Magnolia, but even she was like annoying at some point, just because like none of them are like truly like smart characters. So they all just think with their dicks, is what I'm trying to say. And that's including the ladies. Except there was one character I thought I definitely want to know more about, and that's Henry, which is BJ's brother. So much more likable and Jonah as well, which is Christian's brother. They were just so much more likable than BJ. BJ Valentine Hate Club, that's me. Make me a shirt. I need it. Seems to me like none of these characters ever make the right decision. And that's what I think is so infuriating about this series. But I love it at the same time. Like, it's just gossip. It's still like just gossip level drama. And it's just, this book is just purely vibes, if that makes sense. Who else do I want to know more about? I think another character I want to know more about is Tora. She seems really cool. I'm hoping we'll get to see more of her later on in the series. Yeah, I think she's a really fun character. And also I want to know more about Jules, which is Daisy's brother. By the sounds of it, I think he's going to be a big part in Magnolia's storyline, which I'm scared for. But I'm hoping that BJ just does not sort his shit out, and then Jules and Magnolia can be together. Spoilers, oh my gosh. Sorry about that. My channel is going to be spoilery only. Just pure spoilers. That's what you have to know before subscribing. Yeah. I also, side note, that in between reading these books, I've just been stalking Jessa Hastings on her Instagram. She's friends with Taylor Lautner. She's a star. She is Magnolia Parks. I don't think she's Magnolia Parks, because I'm hoping she's a lot smarter than Magnolia Parks. But I think she's just the coolest person ever. And she's just such a... she gives Nepo baby energy without the nepotism. Maybe she's a Nepo baby, for all I know. But she self-published these, and I love, like, hearing about indie authors, like, success stories. Gives me hope for the future, you know? But yeah, I love Jessa Hastings. I am her biggest fan. Like, I don't want people to think I hate this book, based on like this review I'm giving, but like I hate it. All the reasons why I say I hate it are all the reasons why I love it. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. Obviously I like this book because I annotated it, and that is all I have. Like, if you can, you know, someone likes a book if they've annotated it. Like, I'm not going to waste my pretty tabs on a book I don't like, and I'm not going to coordinate it with the cover if I did not like the book, you know? The next book I read is actually, I think, my favorite one that I read in both March and February. Actually, I take that back. No, it is my favorite. In February, March is A Far Wilder Magic by Allison Saft. A Far Wilder Magic, it follows two characters, Margaret and Wes. And Wes is like this alchemist, and he goes to where Margaret lives because her mother is a very famous alchemist and he wants to be taught by her. However, Margaret's mother is not there. It's just little young Margaret there. So Wes is sort of disappointed, and anyway, shenanigans ensues, and basically Margaret and Wes have signed up for like this magical hunting game. This sounds really crazy. I'm terrible at explaining books. So they sign up for like this little hunting game where basically they win a cash prize, which will help both of them if they hunt like this magical fox. So that's the premise of the story, which I'm very rubbish at explaining, but just know that it does make sense. I found the premise to be extremely fascinating. Yeah, I really loved it. It was just, yeah, like I said, like YA isn't really like, I'm sort of growing out of YA, but I do tune in for like, I do tune in for certain YA books. Yeah, but I definitely liked this one. Just because it didn't feel like, sometimes when I read YA, I feel like they're really childish. This one didn't feel like that, which is very good. Well, good for me anyway. So it has a very unique magic system, which I really like. I have been enjoying. I do like easy magic systems just because they're easier to grasp, but this one was just, yeah, it was just interesting. I love seeing how people do. I love seeing how authors write their magic systems. I'm trying to think. I have my notes here. That's why I'm looking off to the side. One thing I will say about this book is that I was really confused about the setting, because for a second I thought it was like late 1800s, but then as I read more into it, it's sort of, I got like maybe a 1920s vibe just because of the technology and like the haircuts. Another thing I didn't really enjoy, that I did think it had a very slow middle. Yeah, it was sort of a slow burn book, but yeah, the middle was really slow, of just like unnecessary. I know it was there for like character building, but some scenes I just thought were unnecessary, and I wasn't quite sure where the plot was going, and I don't know whether that was a good or bad thing, because I was pleasantly surprised throughout reading it, so I'm gonna say it was a good thing. But yeah, it was like, while I really enjoyed the premise, I was confused about where it was going, specifically like character wise, mainly for Margaret. His full name's Weston, but Wes's like storyline, like it was pretty clear where he was sort of going. I also felt like the romance of it was very cute between Margaret and Wes, but it also just moved rather quickly. Like they were sort of like denying their feelings for one another for a really like through the first sort of half of the book, and then all of a sudden they were like, I love, like, confessing that, not confessing their love, but like, they'd never said I love you, I don't think. I can't really remember. But yeah, I just thought it moved quite quickly. But I also think that was because it's a standalone book. So it kind of makes it, but like I just assume because it's YA it's going to be a series, but I think it is going to be a standalone. So I guess that's why it sort of moved quickly. But still, I would have preferred a bit more of a slower burn. Spoilers ahead for the next book I'm talking about, which is Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare. This has been a very anticipated release for me since probably, well, since it was first announced, since I read Chain of Iron. And whilst I enjoyed it, there were definitely some things I did not like, which is very shocking for me to say because I feel like I pretty much like every Cassandra Clare book. So yeah, to have critiques on Chain of Thorns is like, I think, a big deal for me. The Last Hours as a whole, when I first heard Last Hours was being made, I was really, really excited for it. But now that I've read, mainly because like the Shadowhunter books were like my obsession, so of course I was excited. And the Infernal Devices, which is like the prequel series to Chain of Thorns, to The Last Hours, was my favourite Cassandra Clare series. I was very, very excited for The Last Hours, but when it sort of came out, Chain of Gold, I did enjoy it. Like, I definitely loved the book, but it didn't give me the same feelings that the Mortal Instruments, the Dark Artifices, especially the Infernal Devices, like, it didn't give me the feelings I had when I first read them. So I was kind of disappointed in that front. However, I do like the Last Hours series. I will say I do have a bigger appreciation for it now because I really do love the characters. Yeah, and I also found this cast of characters were a lot stronger in terms of their characterization, obviously. But as like an ensemble cast, like I was interested in sort of all of the characters' point of view, which I think is a very strong thing for an ensemble casted book to have. Yeah, but it was very like underwhelmed by this series, if that makes sense. But that's not to say I didn't cry, because I did definitely cry in this book because there was a character death that I knew there was going to be a character death, but I didn't think it was going to be that character. I don't want to say. Do I say? No. I'm not going to say. I wasn't expecting him just because I really trusted that family tree. And I know I shouldn't have. And for it to be such like a throwaway thing, like, made me laugh and giggle, like the family tree. But also I kind of wanted it to be more of a big deal. Like, I wanted more of a reason for it. I will say probably maybe the reasons why I was underwhelmed by this finale of this series is because I haven't like reread it. Like, I've reread all of the Shadowhunter books except The Last Hours, so maybe that's why. Like, I feel like yeah, I haven't done a reread of it, and I definitely wish I did because it was such a long gap between Chain of Iron and Chain of Thorns that I definitely needed a reread, which I was going to do, but I also got too excited. Yeah, I was definitely in my feels in this reading this, especially any scene with Will Herondale. I feel like we were blessed with Will Herondale in this book, and he is such a menace. Like, he is such a menace, like, in his old age, and I love that. Also, and I think what made me actually sad about this book is because it is possibly the last time we get to see the Infernal Devices characters, besides like Jem and Tessa. Like, this might be the last time we get to see Will Herondale, because I don't think obviously, we're not going to get flashbacks in the Wicked Powers. Yeah, so I guess I was a little bit sad about that. I will say I really, really loved James's character in this book. He just developed so much. He really stood out to me, this book, which I wasn't expecting. My biggest sort of critique in terms of why it was such an underwhelming finale is I just felt like none of the, besides Cordelia and James's, none of their plot lines were truly like resolved. And I think that's why I was a bit underwhelmed, is because I feel like too many doors were left open, which I have a feeling that's what Cassandra Clare's doing. She's going to write either maybe another series, or maybe another box of short stories, because we definitely need to hear more about Matthew Fairchild. Yeah, because his ending didn't really, he didn't really have an ending. Like, he didn't really have a happy ending. Yeah, I just don't think it was, because a lot of Cassandra Clare's books, like a lot of the finales, even like City of Heavenly Fire, like everything was just, it was still wrapped up, but yeah, nothing just felt wrapped up in it. And I think that's kind of the reason, like I was expecting like these sort of not happy endings, but yeah, like I just wanted to feel like the characters are where they should be, but it just feels like some of the characters are still lost. Specifically Matthew Fairchild. Yeah, but I'm hoping she writes another book or like another series, because I do want to hear more from these characters. And that's not to say, like, I know I said I thought this series was underwhelming. I still like the series. I thought it was an amazing series, and I get why people love them so much. Especially if you like the Marauders era of Harry Potter, you'll definitely like the Last Hours series. But yeah, maybe I should do a reread. Maybe I'll like it more. But yeah, I was very underwhelmed by it, which is not a bad thing. But yeah, but that's really all I have to say on it. Again, I still think it's a lovely series. It's a really good series. I really love the romance aspect of it. But I think that was another thing, is it felt a lot more like a historical romance than anything, like than the plot. Which, like this, I'm talking about the series as a whole, not necessarily Chain of Thorns. But yeah, the last book I read in March was actually a reread of Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. After I finished Chain of Thorns, I feel like I just needed a bit more Will Herondale in my life, so I started to reread Clockwork Angel, and I genuinely miss this series. Like, I would give my soul to read this book again, this trilogy again, for the first time. I just love it so much. It's so nostalgic for me. Also, I will say I've noticed new things about it in my ripe old age of 22. Like, I'm basically the same age as Charlotte was when she's running that institute. That's crazy. That is crazy. Also, and one of the things I've noticed that I really didn't when I first read it and reread it, is that Tessa, my girl, is kind of misogynistic. But I'm aware that is what the time period was, but there were just so many little instances where she was just like, oh, but girls can't do that. And I was just like, oh, you have to put, I know it's set in London in 1800s, in the Victorian era, so I know things weren't quite well wasn't going well for women during those times, but still, I could have tone it down, Cassandra Clare. Tone it down on your misogyny and your incest. Anyway, yeah, it was such a long time since I've reread this series that a lot of the side characters did feel new to me, especially I completely forgot about Tessa's brother. What was his name? His name was Nate. I completely forgot he was a character in this book, and it was so I he came up and I was just like, what? who are you? And also, like, I also forgot how, like, mean Will was. Like, because, like, in my eyes, I could just think he's perfect all the time. But he was genuinely batshit crazy. Especially the things the things he says. Like, I'm like, he's crazy. And I will say, it's such a funny comparison going from Chain of Thorns, where Will is like an adult, like he's a parent, to him being the one that's, and also all the characters, basically all the characters, they're the ones like putting themselves in danger, whereas now they're like parenting, telling the teenagers to stop putting themselves in danger. So it's just funny to see how he's grown basically over the 2 series. Yeah, that's basically all I'm going to say. Obviously, you know I like Clockwork Angel because I'm rereading it for probably the gazillionth time. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, I hate apologizing, but I have to apologize for my constant rambling and my sort of stuttering. Not stuttering, but I don't have stutter, but my stammering. Stammering's a good word. I must apologize for that. Let me know if you've read any of the books. Please, if you have read Chain of Thorns, I would love to know your opinions on it. Because I know a lot of people like love the series, but I have a feeling I'm not the only one that hated the ending. I didn't hate the ending, but like I just felt really underwhelmed by the ending, as I said previously. It's looking like Tuesdays might be my new video day. I will be posting shorts every day. But yeah, Tuesdays, that's when I'll be posting my new videos. That's going to be my day. Alright? Okay, it's settled. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I will definitely appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Bye.